I've never told this story to anyone. One, because I highly doubt anyone would believe me. And two, because of what happened to T. I'll give you some context real quick. I really don't remember how old I was. I just remember that I was a stupid high school student. I say that because of the fact that I had no business being on the dark web to begin with, in my personal opinion. My mom had given me her old laptop, to which I will not describe. I doubt anyone reading this or watching this being narrated would be able to figure it out, but for safety reasons, I refuse to go into too much detail. Anyway, I did what any teenager back then would have done with their new but used laptop. I used it for about 10% of schoolwork and 90% to do whatever I damn well pleased. All was fine until I went to the school library to finish up some homework that I didn't finish at home due to the fact that it was hard to get anything done. As I entered through the double-sided doors that led into the long, narrow hallway, I couldn't help but to glance over one of the school computers. It was an image of Squidward that at first was a little off. He was just staring off. However, his eyes began to bleed and there were black circles around his eyes. I didn't know anything about creepypastas back then, so it's very possible that it was just that. However, I was intrigued by this as I sat at one of the computers and got my homework done in peace. I had my iPod on to help me focus and was too busy trying not to fail the assignment to really pay attention to most of the conversation between one of the students and the school librarian was that the kid got into trouble and went about my business. By the grace of God, I was able to print out my assignment to turn in just before the bell rang. Everything was fine, and I had brushed it back to the back of my mind as I went about the rest of the day. However, when we got to homeroom the following day, the principal got on the PA and told us that from now on, there was going to be better security to the school's library computers due to yesterday's incident. Of course, she didn't go into detail about what the incident was, but somehow it still spread like wildfire throughout the school. Apparently, there was a popular video that everyone was watching called Squidward's Suicide. Unfortunately, that was as much information as I could grab since everyone, including the staff, treated it like it was a major taboo. So, of course, my curiosity grew like a weed. I had to know or see what this video was. But no matter how hard I tried to look for the damn video, I couldn't find it. Someone said that it was all over YouTube. Keep in mind that this was really early YouTube, not today's overly censored version of YouTube. However, when I tried to type it in, nothing came up. It was like it didn't even exist. I had eventually found a video with the title, but it was a trolling video. I was visibly frustrated that spring afternoon when my mother came in. She tried to get me to talk about why I had looked so pissed off, and I eventually flat out told her about it. Like any overly protective parent, she threatened me. She said that if I kept looking up stuff like that, she was going to take the laptop away from me or put some kind of protective password on it. I didn't really care. All I cared about was finding out what was this Squidward's suicide, and why, besides the obvious, was this the one thing that caused our school to up its firewall on all the computers. As I thought about how this must have been just some stupid prank, and that I was clearly getting punked out for it. I almost laughed at my own stupidity as I was about to call it a night. Before heading to bed, I decided to enter random chat rooms to hopefully get my mind off of it. I met nicer people in these random chat rooms than I did at school, but it was never a really close friendship. That was until I met T. To give some background information, I used my real name. Stupid, I'm well aware. Because honestly, I just didn't value myself at all. I really didn't think that even my parents cared at all for me. So, what was the harm? Despite giving my real name, T wanted to stay anonymous. A major red flag that I didn't care about and thought to just give him respect for it. We eventually talked about why I was in the chat room to begin with. I told him about how I hated my life at home and that there was an interesting rumor at school. He picked on me for chasing a rumor like some journalist. I told him how I might as well had been, for how far I was willing to go to find out if the rumor was true or not. And he asked me about the rumor that much more. I told him about this odd video called Squidward's Suicide. He didn't respond for well over 5 minutes. I thought maybe I said something to upset him, or that he just wanted to drop the topic. But it was getting late, so I went to bed. It was roughly 3 days later that I heard back from T due to things in my life getting in the way. He apologized to me for not responding, but he did some digging. He found content much worse than Squidward's Suicide on the dark web, where he thought that he would find the video if it had actually existed. I thought he was pulling my leg and was full of shit. So I responded back with yeah, right. He assured me that the dark web was real, and that if I had the balls for it, he would help me see it for myself. T was in the middle of typing more, but Mom called me for dinner. So I replied that I would be back later because it was time to eat. T was in the middle of typing when I had shut down my computer for the night. I waited until the weekend to open my laptop to the chat room because of school, and because I still didn't believe anything T was saying. I didn't believe at the time that the dark web was real. I just thought that he was just trying to scare me because I was younger than him. I think he said that he was about 30 years old. He had pulled pranks on me a few times before. Nothing like catfishing, thank God, but stupid shit like sending me links that was aimed to troll me or make me laugh. Feeling bad that I never came back to the chat room until the following Saturday, I opened up my browser and launched the chat room. My blood felt as cold as ice, and my eyes widened. The first thing that I saw was that there were at least 15 messages from T. I don't remember them all, but what I do remember is that he said that he was sorry for what he did, that he didn't want any of this to happen, and that it would be the last time we would ever get to speak. I felt afraid and angry. I wanted to talk more about the whole situation since most of the messages were cryptic as fuck. Shit like the dark web wasn't as safe as he thought. He was so stupid, etc. I didn't get any responses until I was just about to leave the chat room. The last message said something along the lines of, if I wanted to see something. I got scared and asked where's T. I had been given a link. I got so scared that my fingers froze to the keyboard, and I was scared shitless. I told him that if this was another joke, that I was going to block his ass that very second. All I got back was to watch this link. I contemplated for what felt like hours. I glanced back at one of the last messages that T sent me. It said, "If I send you a link, whatever you do, don't open it." Despite the warning, despite knowing how stupid this was, I was still in denial and believed that this would be a sick joke. I hovered over the link as a message popped up. It said my real name and mentioned how it was a farm video. Whoever was on the other side of the screen was growing impatient as it said to do it if I wanted to know what happened to T. I downloaded the file onto the laptop and opened the file. There were 4 black and white videos entitled Farm 1 through 4. I watched all 4, but there was no sound in any of them. To this day, despite the fact that there was no sound, watching those poor people being mistreated the way that they did while wearing pig heads still sometimes haunts me. I cried when suddenly a message popped up and said, "Don't cry. You'll be with them soon." I rushed to remove the battery out of the laptop, and I didn't use it for weeks before I finally got a new one and sold the old one to my cousin. I know that I shouldn't have, but I didn't think anything of it. I thought that would be the end of it, and though I ripped off my cousin like a dick that I was, I eventually did pay him back. As for T, I spent months trying to look for him, and had hoped that I would find him, that we would have had a good laugh over my expense and gone back to talking about anything besides Squidward's suicide and those damn black and white tapes. I never found him or the links again. I had just hoped and prayed that he was going to be okay. But to be honest, I'm pretty sure that if it was him begging for help in the video, he wouldn't live much longer after that. I'm sorry for how my voice sounded throughout the video. I was really sick and determined to make that 250 subscriber special. Anyway, please be careful with who you trust out there. I didn't really go through too much grief, but others have. We would quickly like to thank you all for helping us boost the channel, as none of this would be possible without you guys. You are all amazing. 300 subs, here we come. We would also like to thank our lovely Children of Darkness, our Shadow Beast, Justin Rosado, our Darkling, Lucy Pasley, and our very first Shadow Folk, the one and only 242 Reads. If you would like to become a Child of Darkness, visit our Patreon, as we are now offering art to go with the shout-out, instead of just a shout-out at the end of each video. And with that, remember, we're always watching.